أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Welcome everyone to RSR 2020 and congratulations on reaching the holy month of Rajab. Inshallah, our rewards in this month will be multiplied and we all use it to the best of our abilities. I would also like to send our condolences to the Imam of our time, Ajallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, to the martyrdom of Imam Hadi alayhi salam in these days. So today we'd like to start the program with the recitation of Dua al-Faraj all together if we can. There are two really main reasons why we want to do this today. The first is to give the thawab of this program to our Savior and Imam Mahdi Ajallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, but we also want him to bless us in this program with his presence. So inshallah, this is sort of an invitation that we want to give to him. Inshallah, he blesses us with his presence. So if we could all read it together now. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Shaban and Ramadan, we usually get this spiritual spark from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the aim of this program is to use the spark that we gain in these 3 months and inshallah to allow us to spiritually grow for the rest of the year, not to just leave it behind after Ramadan. And as Layth said, it's a beautiful hadith from the Prophet, peace be upon him, that Rajab is the month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we see this reflected in the amal of the month and the meanings of the ad'iyah that we recite in this month. Sha'ban is the month of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and we see it is the month of wilayah. Many of our imams are born in this month, including our Savior, Sahib al-Asr al-Zaman, Ajallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. And then Ramadan, it's our month. It's the month that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the Quran. He gave us Laylatul Qadr, and He gave us the blessing to worship Him through fasting, inshallah.
So as Maryam said, in these 3 months, we usually do a lot of extra amal. And we do this for many reasons, including that in these months, our thawab or reward is multiplied. So we fast, we pray, we read Quran, read ad'iyah, and do many more things, both wajib and mustahab. But unfortunately, brothers and sisters, we do neglect one of our obligations, and that's to seek knowledge. There is a hadith by the Prophet, peace be upon him, that he says, طَلَبًا فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ وَمُسْلِمَةٍ. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, says, seeking knowledge is an obligation on every believer. So this hadith clearly shows that it is an obligation and wajib for us to seek knowledge. But why is that the case? I tell myself this before anyone else, but I've always assumed that seeking knowledge is more of an extra thing that you do if you're feeling a bit more spiritual or if you think you're ready for it, not something that is a wajib on everyone. So why is seeking knowledge such an important factor?
So whenever we have a question that we can't answer, we always go first to the Quran. And here we're going to look at the first revelation. So the first revelation is the first 5 ayat of Surah Al-Alaq, and here they are. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Read in the name of your Lord that created humankind from a clot. Read, and your Lord is the most generous, the one that taught by the pen, that taught humankind what they did not know. So we can see here that there is a link between the creation of humanity and us learning or being taught. There's a link here, but what is this link? We need to be able to understand that. We need to delve into the tafsir of these 5 ayat, inshallah.
So we'll start with the first ayah, which is اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Read in the name of your Lord that created. And so this ayah was sent down to the Prophet when he was in Qara, when Jibreel was telling him to اقرأ, read, and he said he did not know how. But the real question here is, what does the word اقرأ or read actually mean? Because the Quran in its physical form, the book wasn't present at that time, it hadn't been made yet. So what does the Prophet have to read? And there are 3 opinions about the meaning of iqra. The first one is to recite. And what we mean by recite here is to recite the Quran to the people. So to spread the science and the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to everyone. The second is to remember. And by remember we mean dhikr. So remember the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to recite it a lot of the time. The third one is to see. And here we mean to see the lordship or the rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything He created. And that's why the ayah ends with الَّذِي خَلَقَ. So most of us here agree that the third one is the most right. And why they say that is because it really encompasses the first 2 as well. If you do see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything you do, you are remembering Him. So that covers the second one. You're doing dhikr. And also, once you see Him everywhere, you will then have this capacity to be able to teach everyone around you as well. So to spread the message. So that's why we'll stick with the third one, which is to see.
Alright, the second ayah is خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ. We always translate the word alaq to clot, but we need to look at the root of the word to understand what it means. The Arabic word alaq means something which is stuck to something else, but not only just stuck as a nuisance, but stuck and is gaining sustenance from it. So an example would be if you were hanging onto a cliff with your life, you would be an alaq to that cliff. Why? Because you're holding onto it, but it's sustaining you from falling down as well. And that's why the janeen, or child, is also an alaq. Because when there are only a few cells, they stick themselves to the uterine wall of the mother, and they get their sustenance from the mother. So this is one of the miracles of the Quran, because at the time they didn't know how a baby was formed, and the Quran revealed how a baby was formed. But not only that, we also want to look at the word insan. In the Quran, it doesn't say janeen or tifl, it says insan, which means that there is no age restriction to when this child was a clot. It's not a child, it's a human is a clot, which suggests that humans are always dependent. They're always hanging on to something and being sustained by it. And what is it that we're all sustained by? The Qayyum, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
We move on to the third ayah, which is اقرأ وربك الأكرم. So some Tafassirs say that this only reiterates or re-emphasizes the first ayah. But most Tafassir go on saying that it is either talking about to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi directly or to humanity in general. And instead of just talking about the first ayah, it actually is to draw attention back onto the first 2 ayat. So talking to the Prophet, peace be upon him, the ayah is highlighting the importance of seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Lordship in everything we do, and for the Prophet to remember that he's always dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always there for him. But if it's directed to humanity, to all of us, it is a reminder for us to always remember the generosity, al-akram, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is this generosity? The ayah, if we look at the first 2 ayahs, we get our answer. He has allowed us to depend on Him. For without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we all know that we wouldn't exist. He not only created us, but if He did not exist, we right now could not function at all. He controls everything. So out of His generosity, He's given us this life and allowed us to, depend on Him. And the second thing is that He's given us a way to easily remember Him. Through looking at any of the creations He's made around us, we have a link to Him. So these are the 2 generosities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. But the question is how? How do we remember that we are dependent on Him at all times? How do we remember to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Lordship in everything? Sometimes we forget. So what is the answer?
The answer is given to us in the next two ayat. So the next two ayat, الَّذِي عَلَّمَ بِالْقَلَمِ عَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will teach you how to do this. He will teach you how to remember. He will teach you how to be dependent. And how? Using a qalam. I mean, at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the pen would probably be a quill with ink on it, right? Now we have a completely different understanding of pen. So throughout history, what a pen is has changed, but its function has not changed. And the function of a pen is to imprint on something. So if we take this general definition of a pen, what does qalam mean now? Everything we hear, everything we see, everything around us is the pen on this blank canvas, us. We are the paper, and everything around us is a pen writing on us. But the thing is, the harder this paper is, the harder it is for something to write on us. So what we need, there's a difference between hearing and listening, right? Hearing may just wash over you, but listening, that's when you grasp information. So when you're being taught, we need to learn to open our mind. We need to learn to loosen this paper so that everything can write on it. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us here. So teaching is something, being taught is something fundamental for us being human. They go hand in hand. And if you're still not convinced with that, let's look at the first human that was ever created, Adam alayhi salam. As soon as Adam was created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught him the names. So there is a link between us being human and our purpose and our function and learning.
So now that we know or recognize the importance of knowledge, what knowledge should we actually seek? For there are many knowledges out there. There are many types of information that we can learn. There's maths, English, arts, law. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, actually answers this question because a man asked him the same question we're asking now. So قال رجل ما رأس العلم يا رسول الله. A man asked, what is the pinnacle of knowledge? And the Rasul responds with Ma'rifatullah haqqa ma'rifatih. The Prophet, peace be upon him, responds with knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of knowings. So from this hadith we can clearly see that knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what we should try aiming for. But the question should be is how do we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Where do we even start? He is beyond our comprehension and understanding. So what do we do?
There's another hadith by the Prophet, peace be upon him, and this hadith goes, Man arafa nafsah faqad arafa rabbah. So we could use this hadith to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but here we're making a very big assumption. And this assumption is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our Lord. Sometimes that's not the case, but how?
To understand this, we have to take a look at the meaning of the word Lord. A Lord is someone or something we obey and serve and owns us. So the question is, let's take this out of Islam and just look at anyone who believes in God, any religion, whether it's Hinduism, Judaism. If someone is in a religion and believes in a God, isn't it sort of a given that that person's Lord is their God? We sort of assume that all the time. In Islam, by the way, I'm going to clarify right now, our Lord should be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there's no question about it. But sometimes we don't see that as the case. So if our Lord isn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or isn't our God, who is it? What else can fill that role? And so to understand this more, let's look at someone without a God, an atheist. Does an atheist have a Lord? Because we know atheists don't have a God, so we should look at their life and see what they have. And if you ask them at all, you'll understand that their Lord is themselves. They're driven by themselves, and all they do is obey, serve, and own pretty much themselves. Ask any of the atheists to tell them their purpose in life, and they always say, so I can have kids, so I can gain money, so I can make a difference and leave a legacy on this world. It's always revolved around themselves. And that's when we realize that we can actually have lords that aren't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's a problem. And this takes us to the point of shirk. And before we get the wrong ideas here, we don't mean the same shirk as the people of Quraysh had, where they believed, no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not the God, it's this idol and this idol and this idol. There are actually two types of shirk. Shirk al-qalbi, of the heart, or amali, of actions. So shirk al-qalbi is saying that there is another person other than God who equals Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your heart. So it's a question of faith. So the people of Quraysh had this sort of shirk, And the atheists we see also have the shirk because they put themselves as equals with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their hearts. Amali, on the other hand, is different. It's when any of your actions or worships that should be towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are spent to someone else, even if you don't recognize that person as your God. So even if you know yourself isn't your God, if you focus only on yourself, that theoretically is a type of shirk. But to understand Amali even further, we should understand what worship actually means. Is worship only praying? Because we don't actually pray to, ourselves at any stage of the day.
Yeah, so here is a really good question. I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran has given us how to worship Him. How to do salah, how to do siyam, and hajj. So if shirk is, obeying or worshipping other things, if they haven't given us prescribed types of worship, how are we worshipping them? The thing is, there are two types of worship as well. The first one is the specific worship, al-ibad al-khassa. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us in the Quran. It is the prescribed type. So when we do salah, we do siyam, this is a specific worship. But then there is general worship as well. And that depends on your intention. So if you're doing anything and you intend it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that counts as part of worship. Doing anything in your life, fulfilling your purpose. If you do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is a type of worship as well. But shirk can get involved in both of these. So let's take an example for each. Let's say you're in a mosque, it's empty, and you're praying. And then two people walk in. You start to slow your prayer down, you start to increase your voice so people can hear what you're saying. What has happened here is that you are now trying to impress the people who walked in. You're no longer praying for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you're trying to increase your reputation. And in that way, you've started to worship yourself. And that's a form of shirk. Alright? In terms of the general, if you do anything but you don't intend it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you're also doing worship for that other thing. An example is you're working so that you can make money for your family. If your intention is purely that, then that's not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should be saying that I am working to make money for my family so that we can all serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the purpose that He's given me. If you think about it like that, then you're not doing shirk, you're actually doing worship for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the thing is, sometimes when we start focusing on specific things in our life, they start to take a lot of meaning and value in us. And so instead of the heart being the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it becomes an arsh for many things. Many things start to become part of our heart. Money, for example. Not only the money, but how we spend the money and for who we spend the money. Food. I mean, it is a necessity, but sometimes we spend that extra few dollars to get the good quality food rather than the bad quality food. And just role models. I mean, instead of having Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as our role model and trying to execute His names, we take other things and try to replicate other things which aren't the best of role models, and they do take part of our life and value in our life. And lastly, family and friends. If we love our family friends, not through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we are making them equal in our heart with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which isn't right, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be the person who encompasses our entire heart. And through His compassion, we can then love our family friends as well.
So in this series, we're going to try looking at the hadith, as we said before, where the Prophet said, "Man arafa nafsa faqad arafa rabbah." So if we get to know who we are, we'll get to know who our Lord is. And then if we see that's not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can change that to make it only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the crux of this entire lecture series, inshallah, will be to know who we are so we can achieve this purpose. And we're going to look at how we know ourselves by looking at a hadith called Hadith al-Nafs by Imam Ali alayhi salam. And we'll use this hadith to explore who we are.
Alright, but before we go further into Hadith al-Nafs, we have to do a little bit of housekeeping. So, inshallah, this competition will be running for 12 weeks. And in each week, we'll be having a 40-minute lecture. From next week on, though, we will be splitting the females and the males. So I'll be giving the female lectures and Ibrahim will be giving the male lectures, inshallah.
We'll then bring both groups back for a 10-minute video clip and a 5-minute discussion on the video clip. So the video clips are all going to be from movies and cartoons. And we're going to try seeing the relevance of the material we just studied in the lecture in these clips and try making links. So why we've chosen this exercise specifically is for a bit of practice. Because we want to try developing the skill whereby we can see the beauty and knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through all means. Even if the creators of those shows didn't intend these messages to be seen this way, we can always see the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything. And guess what? That means that even watching TV can become ibadah. So that's a really good bonus.
And also, we just wanted to note that some of the clips that we will be providing are from PG-13 movies. So if you don't want your children to be watching those, we will advise you when those clips come, inshallah. After the movie clip, we will have a quiz. It's a 20-minute quiz, so we will be timing you, inshallah. And this is the crux of our competition. So we will be marking them anonymously, inshallah, and then collecting your marks. And that will go towards whether or not you win the prizes or not, inshallah. But as the lectures go on, the content is going to get more and more dense. So we do advise you guys to bring a paper and pen just to write stuff down. And you will be allowed to use your notes in the quiz, inshallah.
So as Mariam said in the end, it is a competition, so there will be prizes for the first, second, and third place winners. So the third place prize is 2 party games, One Night Ultimate Werewolf and Codenames Pictures. If you know me, guys, I love my werewolf. It is a great game, so highly recommend it. But there's a reason why we chose party games specifically. Party games are a good way to incite regular gatherings between friends or even family. A lot of the time, we do lack that in our weekly routines because we're all so busy. We don't have a time when the family gets together. Our Ahlul Bayt tell us that one of the most important things we should be doing is regularly getting together and meeting, and then discussing religious topics. So party games are a really good way to segue into that. After building your routine, maybe starting your gatherings off with a party game, and then moving on to a religious discussion. And by that, we can segment this thing that Ahlul Bayt taught us into our daily routine. The second place prize is a tablet. So before anyone thinks that a tablet is only a materialistic prize, it is, as we said in Surah Al-Alaq, a good pen and paper. It's a good way for us to document our learning and, prepare lectures and stuff like that. So it's a really good way to do that. It's also a perfect size to read Quran and Ad'iyah without having to, scroll and stuff like that on a phone. And the final first place prize is an Islamic pack. And at the moment, we're trying to collect some things from overseas, but there'll all be prizes from specific shrines from Ahlul Bayt. Already we have a piece of fragment from Imam Hussein's shrine, and we'll have many other different things like that. So inshallah, this will be the ultimate prize. But if you look at it really, these aren't the real prizes. Inshallah, the real prize will be the knowledge you will gain. Even if we're allowed if we are given the permission by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to impart to you the smallest bit of information to act into your daily life, inshallah, that is enough. That is the prize. And we've tried to set these lectures up so that they're very practical, because we realize a lot of the time we listen to lectures, but we don't know how to apply it into our life. So we'll be giving you specific things that we can implement, so we can make a difference.
Inshallah. I want to add a disclaimer. We want to reserve all the questions during the lecture for the participants. So anyone who isn't a participant but is here just to listen, we do have a question box at the back, so please feel free to write your questions on there. The reason we're doing this is because we're very limited in our knowledge, and we ask you guys to all be patient with us and to give us time to research the most appropriate answers for your questions as well. The teacher who taught us all of this, he used to start every lecture by saying, if you don't have any feedback which will help the program, don't give any feedback at all. And we would like to implement the same principle here. I mean, we're flawed. We have pride, and we don't want that to get in the way of the intention for this program, inshallah. So if you do have feedback which will really help this program, also write it down and put it in the question box at the back, inshallah. We also wanted to say, for the quiz, the age limit we recommended was 12 to 22, just because that's how we catered it. But we're happy to open it for anyone who's younger to join in as well, if they are more than willing to, and we're going to mark the quizzes up to the age of 30. Beyond 30, we feel like we're incapable of marking these questions because you guys have so much more knowledge than us, and so we might read something and it kind of seems like gibberish to us, but it may be something really profound and that we don't understand. So we don't think it's fair for us. Question? Yes?
Can we watch
We prefer it to be separate. I'm sorry. So this is a really long program, and we want to make sure that you understand what our schedule is so that it fits with your schedule as well. So inshallah, this program will be run here every Friday at the same time, 7:30. Except for the weeks where there is a Barakah program on. We're going to shift it to Saturday after Salat al-Dhuhr at Masjid Ahl al-Bayt, and the location is on the bottom. We know this may be an inconvenience for a lot of you, so we do have an online option. So inshallah, we're posting all these online, as well as the quizzes. They're going to be online timed quizzes because we do have people overseas also participating in this program. Inshallah.
So now that the logistics are out of the way, let us return to Hadith al-Nafs. So Hadith al-Nafs, we can describe it as one of the pearls by Imam Ali alayhi salam. We describe it as a pearl because you see Imam Ali's, all his hadith are packed with a lot of meaning, a lot of hidden secrets and a complexity. And so the person that receives that hadith must have a large amount of knowledge to be able to comprehend and accept the hadith. So this hadith was told to one of the companions of Imam Ali, Kumayl ibn Ziyad. So let's understand who Kumayl actually was, because he must have had such a profound knowledge to be able to receive such a difficult hadith, and you'll see later on it is a jam-packed hadith. So who's Kumayl?
Kumayl was one of the companions of Imam Ali and Imam Hassan alayhi salam. He was around 18 years old when the Prophet, peace be upon him, was martyred, so he wasn't involved in many of the major battles of Islam during the time of the Prophet. But he was in every single battle with Imam Ali alayhi salam. And Imam Ali alayhi salam trusted him with many, many secrets. One being Dua Kumayl, which is recommended for us to read every Thursday. He also, when Imam Ali was the Khalifa, Kumayl was put as the governor of the city of Heat, which is around Baghdad today. When it was Imam Hassan alayhi salam's turn, he was one of those small few that stayed with the Imam. And that's why he was exiled by Muawiyah to Syria.
Alright, so the hadith starts with after Salat Subh, the Imam and Kumayl were walking, and Kumayl asked the Imam,
سألت مولانا أمير المؤمنين علي عليه السلام فقلت يا أمير المؤمنين أريد أن تعرفني نفسي.
I asked Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, "Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, I want you to introduce me to myself." So this question is quite interesting because, it's a normal question. We all ask it within ourselves. We always go, who am I? What's my purpose? But we usually ask it only within ourselves. We don't ask it to someone else. So it's interesting that Kumayl posed this question to the Imam Ali alayhi salam. It's just an interesting thing to keep in mind. So the Imam responds, قال يا كميل وأي الأنفس تريد أن أعرفك.
So the Imam said, "Oh Kumayl, which self do you want me to introduce you to?" Here the Imam is implying we have more than one self, which is interesting. قلت يا مولاي هل هي إلا نفس واحدة؟
I asked, "O Master, isn't there only one self?" قال يا كميل إنما هي أربعة النامية النباتية والحسية الحيوانية والناطقة القدسية والكلية الإلهية ولكل واحدة من هذه 5 قوى وخاصيتها.
O Kumayl, therefore, the growing plantic soul, the sensual animalistic soul, the speaking divine intellectual soul, and the complete divine universal soul. And each of these has 5 tools and 2 characteristics.
The hadith does have a continuation and it goes on to talk about each of the souls in detail. But what we're going to do is we're going to refrain from giving those now until in the next lectures, when we delve into each of the souls separately, we will give that bit of the hadith so we can pick out each of the words separately and delve into the meanings given there. But an interesting thing throughout the entire hadith is this focus on something called the nafs, an Arabic word called nafs. So what is the nafs? Let's understand what that means. And in English, it directly translates the word self. But what does self even mean? We'll give an example to get our head around that concept. Let's say we have a person, let's say it's me, for example, and I'm holding a Coke can. So I describe myself as saying, I am holding a Coke can. However, la samahallah, my hand was chopped off, and for some reason we put the Coke can in my hand, now that it's on the floor. I can never say that I'm holding the Coke can. I can only say my hand is holding the Coke can. So the difference there is that I initially use the first person subject pronoun, I, and then use the possessive term, my. And the difference we have here is that it's because I can never say that that's me. I'm here. So we're trying to get the concept that the physical body isn't who we are. It's more what's in the inside. That's the self.
But then you might say, oh, it could be the brain because it's controlling the body, or the heart because that's what keeps us alive. But we'll give you a more complicated example. There's this poor child, and he's dead, all right? But his brain is still functioning. And there's another guy who's brain dead. So what the surgeons decide to do is to take the brain from the child and put it into the body. All right, so now what do we say? Do we say that the child is now controlling the man's body, or that the man is now using the child's mind? The second one seems the most appropriate, correct? And that's because the man is not gone, the child is.
So the self is not the physical body or what controls our senses. It's the thing that people refer to us by and what we refer to ourselves by. It's something that's, more intrinsic. It's something that no one else can own. And so that's what the nafs is.
All right. So usually the translation we give to nafs is soul. But why? Why can't we use self? And we need to look at what the word soul means to be able to understand that. So soul doesn't actually have a definition because it differs between different cultures. But usually it involves something to do with feelings and life and thinking. It also involves something outside the body and something that can exist forever. All right? But if we look into the history of the word to understand where it came from, we find that it is a translation of the Greek word psyche, which means life.
Alright, so now let's take this a step further. Let's see what the real difference between self and soul is, because at the moment they look like it's sort of like the same concept. And the answer to that question is, it's really quite annoying and minute, it's the English language. What I mean by that is, self is always called an unaccountable noun. And that's because it originally was a pronoun. If you want to understand the concept of an unaccountable noun, we can give the word sheep. You cannot put a letter S after the sheep. You can never say sheeps, because it just doesn't make sense. But you can say a herd of sheep, so you can use another noun to quantify the unaccountable noun. This is opposed to the word soul, which is a countable noun, and that's because of its origins coming from the Greek word life. So for the purposes of these lectures, we're going to use soul and self as the same thing. So we use them both, they mean nafs, okay? And let's not confuse it with the concept of the spirit, because that's something else.
So now we'll go back to the hadith. The Imam said that we have 4. But how do these 4 work? Is it kind of like a split situation where we have one pronounced and then it retracts and then another pronounces? Or they all mix together, and when they mix together they create some kind of personality?
And the answer to that is quite complex. It is that they are distinct but not separate. They occupy the same area of reality without being mixed together. It sounds like a really hard thing to comprehend, but in science we've been given a great example of this.
And this example is matter and energy. So take this pen. The matter of this pen is its color, its shape, its object. But if I lift it up here, it now has energy, gravitational potential energy, because it has the ability to fall down if I let it go. Now the energy and the matter of this pen, they exist in the same place and the same time, but they're not mixed together inside this pen. That's the same thing with our souls. They all exist inside of us, but they're not mixed together.
So now let's just give a quick introduction to the 4 souls, and we're going to wrap up around our lecture at this point. So the 4 souls are the plantic soul, which is in charge of our growth, our animalistic soul in charge of our senses and desires, our divine intellectual soul, which is in charge of our thinking, and we're going to call it the human soul as well. Those 2 terms are interchangeable. And the last is the divine universal soul, which is going to be also called the universal soul, and that's in charge of our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our closeness to Him. So this is the end of the lecture segment of today, and we're only giving you a taster, like a teaser trailer to the lectures to come. So if you are interested, please register. We will be putting up the link later on, and giving out in the quiz section, there will be a registration form to fill out if you want to register as well. So if you also get these emails, by the way, for the brothers that be mine and sisters Mariam's, please don't block them. These are we're going to be sending you stuff through them. So if you block them in spam, you can't get anything we give you. And inshallah, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to email us back, and we'll inshallah respond to you. With uni, it might be difficult to straight away get to you guys, just inshallah. Other than that, I think Salah time. After Salah, we're going to do the video clip section and the quiz section. So, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
A bit of background to what this clip is before we watch it so that you know who the characters are and what's going on beforehand, inshallah.
So the bit we're going to show you involves the two main characters. So Goku is the main character. He's really flamboyant, happy. And then you've got his rival Vegeta, who's very angry all the time. But he has his loved ones, like his wife, and like he's over time grown to become a good person as well. But they still have their differences. So you'll see they're very quite different and sort of against each other at the same time. During this time, a monster alien, I don't know how to describe him, called Boo has invaded Earth. And what he's done is he has the ability to turn people into candy and eat them. So he's eaten every single person on Earth, and the only two people left are Goku and Vegeta. Oh yeah, and he can also do it by wrapping around the people. He's like gum and he's pink, so you'll see him there.
So now both Goku and Vegeta can't defeat Boo on their own. They're not strong enough. So Goku has come up with a plan to defeat Boo, and this is what we're going to show you, inshallah.
Darn it! I told you this was impossible! Look, if we don't do something soon, we'll be history, along with this whole planet. Why do I care? Wake up! Majin Buu's eaten everyone we care about! Everyone is gone! Even Bulma! They've become part of Boo! They can't even die! I just thought the least we could do is put our old differences aside, just this once, and really work together. We owe that to our teammates, our families, Vegeta, our friends! Yeah! Look, you've always talked about our samurais, how we're the last of a mighty people. Well, it's time we accept we're starting a new race, one that can be just as strong, just as proud, but not if we're caught up in so much of our old birthrights to see what we have right in front of us. We've lost our old race, Vegeta. Let's not lose this one, too. Kakarot, how do you know this fusion will be enough to stop him? I don't know for sure, but I know it's the best chance we have of saving the Earth. You two have lived long enough. Give it to me. What are you waiting for? Give it now. You bet. It's time to die! Come on! You said right here, right? That's right, Vegeta. And one more thing. Once we join our bodies, we'll be stuck in that form forever. The imbecile! You tell me now? Don't you think that's important information? To the end. All right, it's on. Great. Thanks, Vegeta. Sorry about that. Did I catch you by surprise? What do you call Vegeta and a Goku? Vegito sounds alright. I was a little worried about the two of us sharing a body, but it looks like it came out pretty good. I guess I can live with this. Those two I fought before were starting to bore me. Maybe now I'll have some decent competition.
What is the question?
Cut that out!
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. So first of all, we'll open to you guys discussion, of course. So we'll ask you guys what you even think remotely how this could have related to the lecture for today, of today. And then so we'll open it, and after that we'll discuss what we think, what we thought, and we'll try getting to a consensus there. So any options, any hands? Yeah.
I think it relates to Islam because Islam, God controls everything, so things unexpected can happen.
That's true. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Any other thoughts?
Before, how you talked about loving something from the heart, you need to love it from God. So I think how it talks about his family and loving it, I think he needs to love it through God first.
Anyone else? Oh, by the way, I highly recommend this show to everyone. Watch it; it's great. But
Clearly.
So the fact that they had to fuse together in order to defeat their enemy goes to show that ultimately one must integrate all parts of his soul, which is the 4 types of souls that we talked about. Maybe that could be.
Anyone else?
Maybe not a direct relation to the topic, but I like the concept of putting the differences aside and uniting together for a common cause, which could be the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something that all our communities can learn from, inshallah.
That is more related than you think. So well done. Anyone else? Yeah, all right. So, as we talked about before, we have 4 souls within us. And we only briefly talked about them, but sometimes these souls don't see eye to eye, let's say. So, and what we have to do is learn how, even though they're sort of different, by having them together, we actually get something stronger. So Goku and Vegeta both were too weak at the beginning to be able to even beat the enemy. But when they actually came together into one body, they were able to defeat him quite easily, as you saw before. He was toying with him by this point. So it's showing how within us, we may have a lot of different souls, may have a lot of different characteristics, but we learn how to use them all together to make us who we are. Then we can get something further. Another point we tried going for was, do you want to go say it?
So if you didn't notice, when Vegito, the new fusion, started talking, you can see both of their voices. It wasn't an individual voice. So what we're trying to say is that both these souls get pronounced even though they're working towards the same goal. They don't mix together. So Vegito might share the same body, but both Vegeta and Goku exist individually inside.
That's pretty much it. So that's the discussion part. So now we're going to go to the quiz sections.